2024, and I still had people telling me, well, I've got a lot of tattoos and I don't think they're going to like this in law. And it breaks my heart. It really does, because these people are deciding based on real personal traits that actually law firms today, the vast majority of, really welcome it. They're actually fine with it. But the impression they get is that they're not good enough. And this was a word that has been used to me a number of times.
If you've ever watched TV series such as Suits, Ally McBeal, or LA Law, and thought to yourself you'd make a good lawyer, well, here in the UK your options would have been very, very limited until the last few years. Two people have changed things forever in the UK by creating Law Training Centre. It's an online school where they have done some incredibly groundbreaking work, making it possible for everyday people, often without even a degree, to enjoy a career in law. Now, they haven't created the options, but what they have done is they have made the options more accessible to regular people. Now, unlike the US, where we're familiar with the term lawyer, here in the UK, the term solicitor is more widely used, but thanks to Dino and Eve's great work, there are more than just one pathway into a legal career. You can be a solicitor, you can be a notary, you can be a licensed conveyancer, you can be a probate practitioner, you can be a chartered legal executive. There are many, many pathways, and thanks to Dino and Eve and Law Training Centre, regular everyday people are now enjoying these careers without getting themselves into mountains of student debt and without going down the traditional university route. I'm going to show you now how Dino did it. I'm going to introduce you to him, and I think you're going to really enjoy this one. We have a section called Elevator Pitch, which you may have seen, where you have 20 seconds to describe either what the business is, what it does, what it means to you, or what it means to the learners that you have. Do you reckon you could give that a go?
Yeah, I shall. I'm actually just going to put my stopwatch on here. So 20 seconds.
Well, you'll hear the elevator doors open, and you'll hear the elevator going up. And as soon as the doors, you've heard the doors opening, you've got 20 seconds. Should we give it a go?
Let's go. In a nutshell, at Law Training Centre and the Access Law Clinic, we do a couple of things, really important things. First of them is breaking down barriers. And by that, I mean removing financial and other barriers so people can qualify and become lawyers. And we do this through online means. That means people can study anywhere, anytime. Most importantly, though, they don't need to have mountains of student loan debt to do it.
Very good. Very good. All right, cool, man. I like it. So what I'm hearing is many people who maybe think they couldn't have a career in law can have a career in law, and it doesn't necessarily need to be done in the traditional way. Is that right?
100%.
Flexible learning at Law Training Centre has been absolutely amazing. It has allowed me to still pursue my my target career as a solicitor whilst being employed full time. Being able to study in weekends or evenings sometimes when I have time has been absolutely amazing.
So I was looking on LinkedIn, Dina, about Law Training Centre. You tell me if this information is good, and tell me if anything's missing. So it says Law Training Centre's courses are designed to break down barriers to a legal career. We make it possible for learners from any background to qualify via flexible pathways. Does that sound about right to you? And what does that mean to you?
So it's factually correct and it sounds right, but when I hear it that way, it's a difficult thing that we do working in legal qualifications. It doesn't capture what I actually mean. So if I painted it to you this way, I studied law. I first started with a Bachelor of Commerce in South Africa because I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do. I was between architecture and law. But the two examples in my town or family network of architects and lawyers, the architect wasn't very successful at getting paid for his work, whereas the lawyer was.
Got it.
financial pressure was a big thing. My family had gone through a lot. My mother had MS, which cost my father a huge amount of money. The education of us as kids, it took a massive financial toll. So one thing I understood was I've never been money driven, but I understand that the next best thing in life, the best thing in life are free, but the next best things, well, they're pretty expensive.
Fair.
And access to healthcare. In South Africa, you don't have state healthcare, so when you do get sick, you need to have money, otherwise you have a problem. So I said, I'll study something really tough, because surely you'll get paid for studying tough things. So I took all the difficult subjects in Bachelor of Commerce, and some of the subjects were too hard. I had to switch out. Information systems and economics were the two majors. Great subjects, really stretched me intellectually, but law never left me. All my friends graduated. I was offered a job up in the big city in Johannesburg, in South Africa. I decided I've got to do this law. And I then enrolled on what's equivalent to what you call a GDL now in England. So it's a bit more different. It's actually more intense. They made you do year 1, 2, and 3 of the law degree at once.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's when I met Eve. So she's from Greece. She was in her last year. And we were both sitting here studying English law. We knew we were serious, but we weren't sure what we were going to get married, how would it work out. And we were both very pragmatic. So we said, look, well, we both got English qualifications. We'll continue our qualifications, get qualified then. If we don't work out as a couple, neither of us are set back. That's quite a lawyer way of approaching it.
Yeah, it is.
A good lawyer goes into a contract with a termination clause and works backwards.
I like it. I like it.
Because a contract is there to be put in the drawer, and then you carry on with work. And only if there's a problem, you pull out the contract.
I understand.
When we got here, it was a real shock, because bearing in mind, South Africa is really diverse, and I grew up in a very British part of South Africa. My town was called Grahamstown. My school, the schools, they were all called St Andrews College, Kingswood College, DSN School for Girls, Victoria School for Girls. It was really a carbon copy of where I live today in Canterbury. It's
interesting.
Town, but because it has a cathedral, it's a city, and universities and hill and all the rest of it. And so you grow up with a different impression of England when you grow up in a Commonwealth country, because they're actually quite more conservative, even more conservative in the way things are done.
Okay.
I came back, and some things were very pleasant, real progression. But other things took us by surprise. The education system, they basically did not recognize the South African LLB and said you have to repeat it from the beginning.
Right.
No problem. Here's a nice student loan. So we were smart enough to know what's sort of going on here. This is financially beneficial for the university. There's no academic reason. But two universities, one of them was University of Kent, offered a year off for the LLB.
Okay.
So I looked on the map and said, well, Canterbury looks good. There's this Eurotunnel thing. We're close to Europe. The other thing you do is Google where's the best weather in England, and Kent came out top with 100 and something sunshine days. But also a good law school, and they give this year off, which is a huge saving. But it still didn't mean both of us could continue. So I said, look, let me see what I can do with my law degree in terms of getting a job from South Africa, the law degree, and you can study. And within not even 6 weeks, I'd landed. I'd been for 3 interviews. I'd had 3 offers, and I took the third one that worked. It was a work from home job.
Okay.
But then driving around the country a lot. And you could then study. She worked at a campus shop. Got through all of that. Then we discovered there's another course you need to do called the legal practice course.
Around
£10,000 back then. I'm talking about 2005, 2006, when £10,000 was
a lot of money.
£10,000.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to do this. Luckily, my sales job had sort of kicked in, commission and all of these things, but you still had to work. And what happened then was, we then found out you need to get this training contract, and then actually there's 10,000 people studying the legal practice course, and on average, in a year, 4,500 to 5,000 training contracts are given out. Sitting in your lecture hall, you look to your left, you look to your right. Only one of you is going to get a job as a solicitor at the end of this, and you're all taking the gamble. When people are exploited to that degree or pushed to that degree when it's not necessary and not actually going to lead to a sustainable outcome, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And that's how we founded Law Training Center. After qualification and after us having a family, we then discovered alternative routes to law, which nobody talked about at university. It was almost a massive secret.
Yeah.
Then finding information was quite difficult. And we looked around and saw the way it was being delivered and said, Eve really said, look, I can do this better and I can do this fully online. I can do it the way
Okay.
it should have been for us.
Yeah.
And that was the catalyst. We knew exactly what it needed to be because we'd been there. So
Okay. So you'd been through the system, you'd seen how complicated it seemed to be, or was, for the average person studying law, and you spotted a path that was simpler and clearer that could be done online. Is that right?
100%, but we had to push it online. So we had to really work with regulators to get that agreement to go fully online.
Mm.
His vision was always fully online, paperless, because she said that's what you actually need when you're juggling
Yeah.
all of these life responsibilities. And
Yeah.
we didn't get it. We didn't pull it off straight away. We had to run night school
Mm.
as a regulatory requirement. And attendance was low because people were tired after work. People had children, childcare issues after work. There was traffic,
Yeah.
etc. And our first online students were, funnily enough, right from Canterbury, within 10 minutes walk of where the center was.
Okay.
Even
Nice.
though they
Well,
were
that's funny, actually,
physically
isn't
that
it? Because
close.
the online thing didn't really apply there.
No, we simply, the regulatory world wasn't ready for it. They
Okay.
had to have a blended delivery at least, or fully face to face.
Okay.
Just wasn't ready. So coming down to breaking down the barriers, having worked with so many students now, there's people who've been through much tougher things than even I have.
Mm.
A lot tougher. So it's not really about a contest of who's had the hardest time here. That's not the point. But what we did, and me personally, growing up in South Africa, through the fall of apartheid and the birth of a new democracy and the whole structural change, was understanding that if you remove barriers for people, any types of barriers that make no sense,
Mm.
talent can rise to the top.
Mm-hmm.
People can succeed, and that's what we look to do. So we said, well, one of them is geography, move it to online. The other thing is cost. Well, if online is done well, because online doesn't necessarily equate to cheap,
Yeah.
but if it's done correctly and in a way that you've really got to think about costs to be able to make it affordable, without compromising quality, that you can also achieve that bit. And then blending the different pathways, because there's various different pathways into law which doesn't exist outside of South Africa. It's very clear cut. There's two pathways. That's it. Most Commonwealth countries are like that. In England, we have a huge number. And then understanding all of them and then advising people on how to choose. And that's what we were there to do. So when we talk about removing barriers and flexibility, it's all of these barriers that block diversity, and not just diversity on the grounds of protected characteristics, but diversity of people's professional and socioeconomic background.
I think studying it with Law Training Centre was beneficial to my career, because it meant that I didn't have to cut down the hours. I could still carry on being a conveyancer, was still a conveyancer full time. There wasn't any seminars that I needed to go to. There wasn't like a set time, like, oh, you need to go to this seminar. You need to go to kind of like a university for something, because I've kind of had like unis in the past where there can be like a bit of stuff online, but then also you do have to go into the university for some things, and I just couldn't have managed that with being a conveyancer.
I'm a big believer that socioeconomic circumstances keep people out of law.
Okay.
For many reasons. I mean, it's 2024, and I still had people telling me, well, I've got a lot of tattoos, and I don't think they're going to like this in law. And it breaks my heart. It really does, because these people are deciding based on real personal traits that actually law firms today, the vast majority of, really welcome it. They're actually fine with it. But the impression they get is that they're not good enough. And this was a word that's been used to me a number of times. I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not clean enough to be. And I'm like, what do you think lawyers are? They're not perfect human beings.
Right.
They certainly shouldn't have criminal records and things like that. But they are human beings, and they do have a very, very creative side. And we're seeing it come out. But and that's what we talk about when we talk about barriers. So there's all the the technical and the commercial stuff of removing physical barriers and cost, and education, and making flexibility. But there's this deeper human level, and that's the part that I think it really drives even I, because she wants to do this. I said, look, I have no idea how this could stand up commercially as you and me founding this. I understand how we could set up a law firm, but how are we going to make this work? And we thought about it for a week, came back to it and said, look, it's very clear the law firm model, if we set up a law firm, we do incredibly well and we probably be very wealthy and retired pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But that didn't float the boat. The law school idea was there, and it took a long time. We were both working full-time jobs alongside setting up the law school to run it, but the drive just never goes away, and it only gets, the more we succeed and the more people we help, the more the flame. And guess what? There's a whole bunch of other people who believe in what we do, and that's the kind of people we work with. We're so lucky to have worked with us and study with us that see it. So yeah, I think it's quite a hard thing to capture on a website.
How do you measure success for Law Training Center?
Oh, so that's a really good question. That's a nice question, actually, Mike. Thank you for that one. I like that. So as a business owner, I'm supposed to measure success according to EBITDA and all of these things.
Yeah.
That's not how we measure success. That's how we make sure we are able to pay the bills and do all of those things. The financial aspects are important. You have responsibilities, you have staff to meet, you have commitments to your students. Finances are important, 100%.
Yeah.
That's not how we measure success, though. How we measure success is outcomes for our people. And when I say people, I mean our students. And I use that word deliberately. I always talk about people, customers, or learners. I found the word student. When I was a student, I was given a student number. And I recite my number, and I can just about remember it, actually, some 30 years later, actually. And I never liked that concept of a number.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
I'm a person with a unique set of circumstances here, studying at an institution, but I'm still a person. I'm not a number.
Yeah.
And we look to see, well, for us, we love the study of law, and we know a lot of people study law for the sake of studying law. It's a really enjoyable subject, but really we're on this side of the world, the legal world, where we know that people know why they're studying it. They're going to get a promotion. They're going to be able to become partner. They're going to be able to set up their own law firm. They're going to be able to earn extra income to do whatever it is they need to do. Educate their children, whatever it may be. So we really look. And that's why we always work from the outcome backwards. So when a learner comes to us, I always start with, what do you actually want to practice in? What's your actual goal? And they're like, no, I want to talk about this course. Well, how much is the course cost? We'll talk about that, but I need to understand where you're going at the end goal, because it all works backwards.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The study of it can be as little as 1 or 2 years. Sometimes it can be 4 or 5 years. So a lot of people only find out midway through that the path where they're on is going to lead to a complication, which may add a year or two on.
Yeah.
So how we measure success is, well, how many people are actually able to get to that goal of becoming an authorized person? Now, an authorized person is the term used under the legislation, the Legal Services Act, for people like solicitors, chartered legal executives, notary publics, licensed conveyancers. It's that act that gives you the authorization to do things like register a charge at the land registry. So when the person takes out a mortgage, it is an authorized person is only allowed to do.
Makes sense.
And this is less than 1% of the population have this authority. Bearing in mind, it's a very big authority. You have the authority to hold client monies, for example. So you're in a high position of trust. So that's measure success. Are our people getting the actual qualifications to make a change in their career? And not all of them want to be authorized persons, by the way. Some of them would like to be recognized paralegals or technicians. And that's absolutely fine. But all we're looking through is, are they able to achieve the actual career outcomes? And with the fruits of our labor now, 8 years later, we've sort of seen that happen. We've seen people set up their own businesses, people getting licensed, actually practicing.
Yeah. So Dino, what I'm hearing, tell me if I'm wrong, is in England and Wales, there are many, many routes to a legal career.
Correct.
that maybe don't exist in other countries.
That's 100% true. Yeah.
What I'm also hearing is that what you guys do when you talk to a new learner is you start at the end goal. You start at what do they need, what do they want, what do they want to practice, what do they want to specialize in, what do they want their job to be.
Yeah, exactly. So what is it that they actually want to do? Often we say, what area do you want to practice in?
Mm-hmm. And then you work backwards and make the path to there from where they are to where they want to be as short, as simple, and I guess as cheap as possible.
Exactly that. So generally speaking, the type of learner we talk to have limited financial means because they're privately paying, or increasingly we are people turning down student loan options because they're not comfortable with the level of debt they'll be taking on. So they do have the option. They have university places, they have a loan in place, it's not a problem, but they're not comfortable with it, and that's fine. And that's really wise sort of thinking from young people that we're seeing, incredibly wise, really. And how we often look at it is we can't make it easy. Law is not easy. The practice of law is not easy. Getting licensed, none of it's easy. But we can make it accessible and we can make it possible.
Nice.
With the least amount of barriers in place.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty complex thing that we have to do because it's at times can be quite complicated stitching together various pathways, because each regulator has a different set of rules, but they overlap. And it's in those places that overlap where people are able to then achieve what they're looking for. So, for example, people who don't have a law degree, you do need a degree or degree equivalent to become a solicitor. You might tell me, well, what do I go and study then? Well, we have a licensed conveyancer qualification that is on the Ofqual framework at level 4 and then at level 6. So there are those two diplomas, which are a fraction of the cost of a law degree or any other degree.
Yeah.
They meet the SRA's requirement for having a level 6, which then allows them to do the solicitor exams. But the beauty about that route is it covers the subject matter that they're going to study in the solicitor exam. So they're not studying something for the sake of it. It's not going to be superfluous knowledge.
Practical.
It's practical. And they're able to actually qualify in that area, potentially secure themselves a job working in a law firm as a conveyancer or probate practitioner, and then continue their studies. But then they continue their studies from a position of security in terms of finances and career prospects. The demand for conveyancers and probate practitioners is at an all-time high. We have a massive skills shortage.
Yeah.
Employers are actually, post-pandemic, realizing that actually investing in training that is online, once they've realized how cost-effective it actually is compared to them hiring people and paying, exorbitant recruitment fees, they realize, well, we'll pick up that tab. We'll give the person some time off to study. We know the workload they're getting is going to help them qualify. And the employer wins as well, because they normally benefit from a really loyal, happy, high-quality team member who feels genuinely appreciated because the law firm has actually then sponsored their studies.
So we're talking, tell me if I'm wrong, we're talking about two different completely models here. There's the classic route into law where you have a law degree, potentially take on a lot of student debt, and it's quite a long route, and it's theoretical, theory at university, followed by a career in law. Whereas that seems to be the classic route. Is that correct?
Correct. There's a little bit of practice bit at the end, but the bulk of it's theory. Then there's some practice, and then you into the law firm.
So that makes sense to me. That's what I was aware of. I have a working knowledge of this, very limited knowledge of this. So then what you guys seem to have done, and tell me if any of this is wrong, is somebody who might already be working in a law firm, maybe they're a secretary, maybe they've got, a non-legal career right now, or they have, but they haven't got all of the qualifications. They can have that job, which will obviously make them money. They can study part-time online with Law Training Centre. They can avoid a lot of student debt. They can pay their bills as they go along, and they can have a shorter route to a legal career at the same time. Is that right?
100%. So that's a typical pathway for the majority of our learners.
Mm.
And the interesting thing, because I sort of touched on the law firm bit and I sort of just threw that in there again. I because I've done this for so long, I kind of assume that everybody has this sort of knowledge about how people qualify, but actually it's almost a secret how
Mm.
how people actually qualify. And I mentioned law firm sponsoring and all of this, but so what tends to happen is, pre-pandemic, and the pandemic was a turning point for a lot of reasons. Um, Law firms found it very difficult to implement hybrid working or work from home,
Mm.
for various very good reasons, but equally just for fear of change. Law firms have to be very risk averse. They have to manage a lot of risk. So keep
Yeah.
the building is a simpler way, IT and so on. It forced them to change. And then they realized, wow, productivity didn't necessarily drop and it does work. And the hybrid model is the one that's working. There's also fully online remote ones that work very well. But as long as
Mm.
everybody get up for the culture from the outset, the models work. When you're trying to force a new culture onto an organization that has, a long history of working in a building, it doesn't work so well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really finding that mix. But law firms found that. Then they realized, well, people can also work and study online. And they were faced with a serious talent shortage. It's been brewing for a long time. We, coming from countries like South Africa or Greece, where unemployment is well into double digits, sometimes
Yeah.
as 40% at points. When we talk, single digit unemployment in the UK, I look at these numbers and think, crikey, that's really low.
Yeah.
We've never had, and the legal profession as well, because of the barriers and the cost, the throughput of people just isn't there to support the roles. And we have a lot of people who took early retirement during COVID,
Mm.
left the profession or went part-time to do other things. So it's
Right.
a talent shortage. Law firms in there said, well, we're looking outside to try and get people in, and we can't find any. Or if we do, we're paying these massive sign-on bonuses. And if you do,
Mm.
then typically the person might not stay very long because the next law firm that comes along with a bigger sign-on bonus will poach
Yeah.
them. They realize that's unsustainable. And then they looked around in the firm and said, well, we've got all these people here who've been with us for years and they've shown real interest in wanting to
Yeah.
say, let's promote them. And what that
Nice.
does for them is it ensures the law firm's culture remains intact and actually forges a much stronger team.
That
And
makes sense.
yeah, and the funny thing is, this is how law has always been. So when you look back at the notarial profession, the notary public, which is the oldest legal regulator, nearly 500 years old, it's the faculty office of the Archbishop of Canterbury. So one of the
Mm.
other jobs of the Archbishop of Canterbury is to regulate lawyers, which
Okay.
even in legal circles, people don't really know that. It's quite
Yeah.
a special thing, shrouded in, again, a lot of history.
Mm-hmm.
But these are professions where they've always worked on the basis of the traditional apprentice. You've got to work in the role and grow from there.
Yeah.
Law firms are doing that. And because it's online, because it's affordable, law firms are saying, well, actually, we'll pick up that study. Was
That makes
before.
tons of sense to me, Dino, as a business owner, because you've been, when you've got a team of people, all with varying levels of responsibility, if you've had somebody with you for, say, years, you know how they work, you know their work ethic. The only thing that they may be missing is a certain level of training.
In many ways, in law, they're actually missing the certification, the qualification,
Got
the
it.
the the certificate to say they can do it. Because
So
when
they
they've
can
been
do
doing
it
it,
already, but they haven't got the
yeah,
piece of paper that says they can do it.
100%. It's not to boil it down or dumb down or simplify it to that level that becoming a lawyer is just a simple case of practice. You need the underlying knowledge as well.
Mm.
But the daily practice of most areas of law that the vast majority of the public interact with, what you need is not the law degree part of that person's knowledge. You need their practice experience. And these people have it already.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to then gain the underlying knowledge and the certification to then be an authorized person, to then work unsupervised.
So
Which
is it part of your job now, would you say, part of your remit to educate law firms that they don't need to be looking outward for the growth, they can look inward?
that's a really interesting way of putting it. So our job, we are about education, and I guess all is assumed that law firms know this.
Mm.
A lot do. We very luckily work with hundreds of law firms now, and we know they're the ones that do know this.
Yeah.
But there's around 10,000 plus law firms in the UK,
Yeah.
England and Wales, and I don't know if they really know that, and I don't think there's any intention to ignore it. But the practice of law is fiercely competitive, fiercely high pressured, and once
Mm.
you qualify and set up a business, it's go go go. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think you're 100% right. I think part of our job is to educate law firm leaders.
Yeah.
This can be done, and it'll lead to a more sustainable future for their business. And given it's 2024 now, it's not uncommon in our profession to be celebrating birthdays of hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
Just this morning on LinkedIn, I was looking at one firm, and they'd just done a rebrand of their property division, but the underlying law firm is 126 years old.
Okay.
That's not all the law firm world. I mean, we worked with one of the oldest ones. They're Kent based. It's quite common that law firms, tracing back their roots, are hundreds of years old.
Wow.
And keeping that intact in such a fast moving business environment is actually important, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of talk about law tech and all of these things, but the business of law is people, the people that they have in the firm and the people they deal with.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a people business. All the other stuff, the tech, the documents, this is ancillary.
Yeah.
But it is all about people, and rightly so. So yeah, I think educating law firms is something that we is really in our remit,
Mm.
because they just don't know about it. And I guess I understand it. I think there must be so many things that I don't know about, because I'm so focused on
Well,
what
when you're running a business,
education.
you're balancing so many plates, right? There's only so much information you can obtain, right? In a day.
True, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. What's the biggest misconception people have about having a legal career?
There's a number of them, but I'll try and stick to one or two. I think the biggest misconception people have is that all of law happens in the courtroom.
Mm.
It's great to get up in court. It's great to do advocacy. It's fantastic. However, when we read about these cases in the newspaper, and I posted about one on LinkedIn, I think it was just this week, where 5 grandchildren challenged the fact that they were given 5 envelopes containing £50 each. Their grandfather's estate was worth 450 to 500,000 pounds in total.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were so incensed by this and the behavior of their uncle, who read out the will, that they
Mm-hmm.
chose to challenge
Yeah.
the will, and they did. And I'm very certain they were provided advice saying this is not a good idea and it's going to cost you a lot of money. They went along anyway because people want justice.
Yeah.
They lost the case, and they're now stuck with £200,000 of legal costs between
Wow.
over an estate was only worth £500,000 at most, right? People want justice. They want a day in court, and I really wish that every case that we saw put down what it cost, either
Yeah.
the taxpayer, because there's judges' costs to be paid, there's jury
Yeah.
duty, what it
Sure.
costs the taxpayer, what it costs the defendant, what it costs the plaintiff, and who was paid, who paid what, and how many of those people are now being made bankrupt because they couldn't pay their court costs.
Mm.
These are the bits that you don't see.
Yeah.
And lawyers want their day in court, clients want their day in court,
Mm-hmm.
but really, most of the law happens outside of the courtroom.
Got
Because
it.
getting to court, somebody's paying the tab and taking a really serious risk. And
Yeah.
this is what I'm talking about in civil. Criminals are a very different matter altogether. But in any civil disputes, and particularly family disputes as well, being in court tears people to pieces, the toll it takes on them. No one really talks about what happened after.
Got it.
Read about the judgments. And that's a big misconception, and lawyers' power, lawyers' job, and lawyers' responsibility, and that is, and it's just as rewarding, is to negotiate and mediate a solution with partners.
Yeah,
It's
to
glamorous.
avoid the courtroom altogether.
Yeah, you're not going to have your name in print. You're not going to be in the next law textbook. You know the town reporter is not going to be there to see you doing this and write a newspaper
Yeah.
about you. But you'll have done the right thing by your clients by saving everybody a lot of grief and money by
Yeah.
negotiating.
What I'm hearing is to serve your client a lot of the time, or even maybe most of the time, the best thing you can do is avoid the courtroom.
100%. That's and litigation lawyers will tell you the same thing. Lawyers, divorce lawyers will tell you this. Our court system is so backed up that getting a date to do something, and especially in civil disputes, by the time the court dates rolled around, the company might have folded that you're suing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really big misconception, again driven by shows like Suits, or it was LA Law and so on. It is exciting.
Yeah.
You'll get your day in court when it's appropriate, but the rest of it is going to be done outside.
I get it. It makes a lot of sense. We've got a section called Love Hate. This is where you get to decide, Dino. Are you a lover or a fighter? What makes you angry, or what do you love about the legal world?
Justice and injustice in equal measure. If I'm allowed to flesh that out, or is this like a
go for it
answer? I think growing up in South Africa, what I saw under apartheid was the power of law and the injustice of law. So the laws in South Africa literally said where I could sit down in a public park or not, whether I could enter a certain building, which type of school I could go to, and so on. And these were laws. And we're taught to uphold laws. Law was totally unjust and immoral.
Yeah.
And to then disobey that law made you illegal, a criminal. On the flip side, seeing that change, and that catalyst and that transition when Nelson Mandela became president and humanized the situation and brought together reconciliation using the power of law to actually create reconciliation. Keep the country together. That was a tinderbox. It was a tinderbox, and it could have really exploded into huge civil war. Really, there's always been civil unrest, but a major war could have happened. And seeing the power of how law, when used correctly and applied correctly, works, and justice, and the English legal system in particular, because we have our legislation, but the courts, the judges in courts, are allowed to make value-based decisions. That's how law evolves. And this is why people get really frustrated with me when I say it depends to a lot of questions like this, because it really does. In the English legal system, it does depend on the circumstances, and that's the beauty of it. It makes it more complicated, because sometimes you can't get the straight answer, and you just want a straight answer. It's because we allow ourselves the leeway to take into account a person's circumstances to come out with a just. So yeah, love and hate the injustice and justice of law at the same time.
That makes sense. Yeah, it seems to me that law is a tool that can be used for good or for evil.
Exactly, it's a tool. It's simply a tool. You have a chainsaw. It can do a good job or it can do a bad job. It really depends on the operator of the tool.
Yeah, and their intention.
Exactly. And the English law is another thing that, unlike a lot of other legal systems, actually looks at intention in contractual matters. So allowed to consider intention, which is a very interesting part of our.
It's very nuanced, isn't it?
Very
interesting. Okay, couple more. What's the best or worst advice you got about starting a business?
Wow, there's a lot there. I think the worst advice I got was don't do it. No, the worst advice I got was don't leave your job.
Okay.
How can you leave such a good job?
Mm.
And at the same time, the best advice I got was really leave your job.
Okay.
If I explained to her what happened with Eve and I when she said, look, I want to do this online law school and make all of these things happen. And I said, well, I think that's impossible. She said, well, if there isn't a way, we'll make a way.
I like that.
And I was like, fine, I get that. I get that. In South Africa, we have an expression, you make a plan. There's never no, it's make a plan. It's like,
Okay.
but I said, this is a law school in England and Wales. How are we going to do that, but make a plan. So, and where it was a pivoting point for us was he was working full-time as a lawyer and we're running the law school. And I said, we've hit a wall. I've got X hours in the day. I'm teaching, from 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon to 9, 10 o'clock at night. 5 days a week now. We've hit capacity, and you're going to have to leave this job for us to grow the business. And the job paid a steady income and paid a lot more than what the business could offer. And my advice to her was, well, you need to leave the job.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're not going to be able to grow. And your family looks out for your interests and cares for you. I come from a family of people who understand business and understand that. But even then, for them, it was quite hard to say, wow, how are you going to sort of do it? And it's often the ones closest to you, care about you the most, that will, when it comes to talking about business, really try to save you from risk. But business always involves a risk.
There's always a risk. Sometimes the greatest risk is not taking the plunge, right?
That's something I've come to see going through it. And we talk about business plans and you have to have a plan. But typically what I think we found, and what most successful businesses have found, is you have a plan, and how the business ultimately grows generally differs from that plan, especially in the economic climate we find ourselves in now. I mean, in the last, post pandemic, but even before that, the rate of economic fluctuation, up cycle, down cycle, and the way things are changing, used to be average cycle was 10 years. Now things are happening, we could have 4 10-year cycles within a year. And it's supposed to be writing 5-year business plans. And really the way I look at things is, what's the North Star? And measure yourself to, every day, are you moving closer in the right direction or away from the goal? And that's about the best measure I got.
So, Dino, to round things off, a couple more questions. What's your favorite quote?
One day at a time.
Very pragmatic and sensible from a business owner's point of view. I get it. Very good. Dino, how can people find you and Law Training Center? So
the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. Of course, we have a website, and there's much more than just me to the team. There's a whole team on the organization, on the company webpage. Live chat that's manned by actual people.
Okay.
There's phone lines, and you can phone and speak to them.
Yeah.
And we encourage people to use all of those means. A lot of our people who contact us normally contact us out of work hours. They can to talk. We do encourage people to talk to us. Talking to people to find out things. The website is vast. It covers a lot of information that you need is ultimately there. Find having a conversation, talking through a little bit more than just the courses and the ins and outs and the times of study and the costs, but what are the goals and the aspirations, what to do is a good way for people to get in touch with us, to make it and then feel, do they gel? Yeah, because that really continues once they enroll. Our teachers do like to talk to our learners as well. So we use the word online learning, not distance learning.
Yeah.
We don't want any distance. There's no need for distance.
Nice. So is it right to say if somebody is considering a career in law, they're not sure they've got what it takes, or they're not sure they've got the qualifications they need, they're not sure the path they should take, they should reach out either maybe by LinkedIn or probably I would suggest via the website would be a good option for them, right?
Yeah, 100%. So they're welcome to do that, and what they will get is unbiased advice because we're able to offer all the major routes into qualifying this law.
Cool.
We're able to really give people a clear option, which is sometimes something people don't always get and end up going down a path that isn't ideally suited.
Yeah, because you don't have one degree or one qualification that you push more than any other. It's finding the right qualification for that right person. Is that correct?
Exactly that, the right fit for that person's circumstances. A common question I get is, what's the best way to do it? And I say, well, that's the wrong question. This word best, it really needs to look at each person's circumstance at that time, fit, and what's going to fit them in the near future that they know about.
Yeah.
For example, they know they might be moving house, or they might be getting a promotion. That's going to impact the time of study that they have available. So there's a lot of soft factors that go into deciding beyond the usual matrix of time to study, cost, and all of those usual sort of factors. You kind of luxury when you're a full-time student because your time's fully dedicated to whatever the institution tells you to do. But we know others have a lot more on their plate, and they kind of fit this in. So it's a bit like that example of the the experiment when you take a glass and you put a bunch of stones in, and then you put some sand in, and then you say, well, the glass is now full, but then you pour water in, and amazingly it fits. And oftentimes study is the liquid that has to go in between the cracks.
Okay.
The other things in life.
Interesting. I love it. Yeah. Dino, been a great chat. Thank you so much, and look forward to chatting sometime in the future. Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. If you have an e-learning business, you're a leader of an e-learning business that you're looking to get to the next level, increase sales, that kind of thing, feel free to reach out. I'll put a link to my LinkedIn beneath this video, and you can get me there. Have a great day.